We recording? Okay, recording. Guys, welcome back to class. It's week 6, day 3. We're going to be talking about Redux today. I've hyped you guys up. I remember talking about application state back in week 2. This is what we're talking about. Okay, so recap quickly. What did we do yesterday? We wrote tests, right? What do tests do?
To check if that a function prop or something exists in that code.
It tests. What's it testing though? It's not just testing like, what's it testing overall? Someone tell me. Testing functionality. Okay, I'll give you that one. Fuck man, I got something on the screen. What's TDD, guys? What's TDD? Tell me the process. Those 3 steps. Someone tell me the process.
What?
Of TDD. What's the process?
Something test-driven.
That's what we did.
Write test.
We write a failing test. First, we write a test that fails. That it talks about the behavior of our application. We did a product list, and the product list was expected to take a property, right? And this property was expected to be an array, and it was expected to map over the array and create a list of items. And given 4 elements in this array, how many list items did we test for? How many should it have had if it had an array of 4 items? Remember, we wrote a test. This was the first test we wrote. We checked for, or the second test we wrote. The first one we checked for a header that prompted our user about what this application does. The second one, we wrote a test that was like, hey, how many li elements are there? You guys remember? Yeah. Okay, so just know that tests they test the functionality of our application, and it's a whole process, a whole field of study. People write books on this. People write books on testing. Okay, so introduction to Redux, that's today. It's centralized data, but actually, I lied. This is a better thing. It's application state. All of our components, not all, most of our meaningful components so far have had state because we need to change it, we need to remove a user, add a user, we need to filter for certain movie types, certain movie genres, right? Haven't we all done this, guys? So, into Redux, a short introduction. It's a library that we can use with React. It's most often used with React, but it can be used for other application or other frameworks, and it is not required for other for applications. You don't have to use it, but you're probably going to use it, which is why we're covering it in class. A common question that I actually used to get really confused with is what's the difference between Flux and Redux? You guys are going to see this in documentation, okay? In the future, when you guys are reading documentation, you guys are going to see this keyword pop up every now and then. Just know that Redux is a implementation of a Flux design pattern. So it's like a school of thought. Flux is a school of thought. It says like, hey, in order to solve this problem, you're supposed to do this. Okay, so give me an example, guys. If you want to get rich, what are you supposed to do? Say again?
If you want to get rich, what are you supposed to do?
What's something you probably should do?
Save.
Saving is a good idea, right? No one really can say like, oh, you got to save X dot. Like you got to save exactly this amount of money on exactly this day for exactly this amount. Okay, it's just a general rule of how we should do certain things. We should save money. We should try not to spend too much money, right? A lot of things, really. So Flex is just like an idea, a school of thought of like certain ways of building applications. One day, for those of you who work on, you guys who work on backend, I don't know, we haven't built backends yet, so I don't know who's going to be good at that. But one day, you guys might run into Rails.NET or MVC, and that's going to be like Flux. Okay, so let's set the stage, guys. Let's set the stage, okay? We're going to talk about this for a moment because this is basically the architecture of how Redux flows. Redux, on the top right, you can see we have a store. A store is where our application state is. Okay, it's where we have all the state of our application. And from this state, we produce different views, right? Remember, if we sign in, right, our application state changes, and then we have like a prompt or something that says, hey, you signed in, or it says the user's name, or something like that, right, guys? Right, depending on the application state. So if our storage state is different, our view will be different. In our view, we can fire actions. What's something that can happen in a view that a user can do? They can click a button, right? They can type. They can press enter. There are many different things a user can do that will fire actions. It will trigger actions. Actions are just basically saying, hey, change some state. That's all you can think of actions are. Hey, change some state. And in a moment, I'm going to show you guys how to write an action. An action is super simple. Who here knows what an object is? I want to see everyone raise their hands. Who here knows what an object is? What does an object look like? Come on, tell me. Tell me in code, what does it look like? It has keys and values, correct. It's surrounded by, it's usually put inside of a variable. Objects are put inside of variables, and yes, objects are also put inside of arrays. That was kind of a tricky question. But anyway, objects are curly braces, okay? They have keys, they have values. Very simple. When our actions are fired, there's a kind of complicated process, but you guys will get used to this idea. We're gonna do it in one file, and then we're gonna extract it out to make it easier to think about. But basically, when actions are fired, it's gonna go through all our reducers, and then our reducers will update the state. And I don't really know why they call it reducers, to be honest with you. I guess it reduces the state based on the action. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna demo this to you guys. Why is this process important? If you guys look at this diagram and you look at these circles, you guys can think of the applications that we built in the past. The purple circle on the left represents a component that did something. It's a component initiating change. This component changes and it causes a different component to change. And then that component in turn causes other components to change. This can get really tricky and difficult to manage, right? Remember, like many of us, all of us, every single one of us has had ran into problems where we forgot to pass something to the component via props, right? We did it wrong. We wrote it wrong. We made a typo. All types of errors. When we're constantly having to pass props back and forth, it becomes problematic. We are still going to be passing props this time, but we're going to do it in a different way. Okay? Using Redux, we're going to pass props differently. So on the right with Redux, you can see that we have this place that exists outside of our components. It's bigger than our components. And each one of our components can grab stuff from this place. And also, it can do some things that will affect this place. This place is called the store. Your store can be accessible everywhere if you structure your application correctly. And once again, in a few moments, we're going to do this. It's not magical, guys. We're just going to write a couple functions like we've been doing. We're going to call a couple functions. We're going to give a couple functions some arguments. That's how we're going to access state, and that's how we're going to do pretty much the entire lab. So what is the problem that Redux is trying to solve? Our components, you guys have noticed that like a lot of them have had state. And basically, when a component has its own internal state, it can lead to problems. We want to have as little state in our components as possible. It makes them more reusable is one thing. That's something an interviewer might want to ask you guys. You know, if you guys have components that maintain their own state, they're not as easily reused. And the idea of components is they should be easily reused. Also, there are many different ways different places we have to track and debug the state of our application. It could be in this component, it could be in that component, blah, blah, blah. But if we put it in a store, it's much easier to determine what's going on. Lastly, Redux is also trying to make it easier for our components to share things. Most importantly, state. Redux is just all about state. Okay, once again, we're talking about this some more. It's a store, okay? It has everything is inside of the store. The store has a bunch of stuff we need, okay? Depending on what component it is, different components are gonna need different things. Actions, we're going in there and we're saying, hey, give me this. Give me this. Something like that. Oh yeah, and another thing is in the second you guys are gonna see, reducers just kind of sort of describe what's going on, okay? Any questions so far? Once again, Redux is a source of data. And the big advantage is that it knows about all the data. And if we architecture our program correctly, it will always have the correct data. Oh yeah, there's a lot of there's kind of like a lot of little things to do with Redux, but I'm going to show you guys to do this. And just a word of advice. I'm not going to do it exactly the way you guys may see on the internet, but it's going to work. And if we have enough time, I'll go ahead and redo it the way you guys will probably see on the internet, okay? Okay, let's see a demo of the application. Okay, so we have an application. Someone tell me about this application. Tell me something about this application. What does it have? Okay, it has someone's name. Does it have to be my name? Right? It has a user's name. It has a user's name. It also has a what? We got a box. It's blue right now. Okay? It's a magical blue. What if we want to change that box? Imagine that's a different component, right? And we want to change it based on the state of our application. Well, we can do that. We've seen how to do that. And what do we think this is going to do? It's going to update and go down. So, as this application changes, we change two pieces of state, the count and the color, okay? Now I want you guys to think about this. I put this here. I know it seems stupid right now, but just know this is a different component. It's a different component here, and this component its behavior is affected because of this count right here. Okay, and we can go up and down, right? We're going to show you a couple different ways. Also, the reason why I put the user up here is because I'm going to show you guys how Redux is really important in terms of knowing state globally. Obviously, it's all important, but you can put anything in state. Okay, it doesn't have to be a count. It doesn't have to be a current user. It could be movies. It could be anything. Okay. All right. I should have done this. React Redux demo. So, what am I doing? If we're working with Redux, guys, we should be looking at documentation from Redux. I want you guys all to have documentation open when you guys are working with a new library. So what am I doing? We just generated the project. We moved into it. I've skipped this a lot, but let's go ahead and do get status. Oops, get in there. Is it really getting it? Okay, so get add on, get commit -m, initial commit. Okay, so this is when we first made the project. Let's go ahead and add the dependencies we need. We're gonna npm install Redux. Sorry guys, it's going. I'm gonna open this up. So what do you got in here, guys? Do we have some magic in the side of this folder? No, we don't. We just have some code. Okay, so we're gonna add h1. We're gonna say, what are we building here? Redux tutorial. Okay, Redux tutorial. Okay, what else are we gonna have, guys? Come on, help me out. What are we probably gonna build in here, guys? What was the demonstration? Fine, let's go ahead and create a box. This box will hold what, guys? It'll hold our box, right? So we'll get our box, import box from components box. Okay, so we'll create a new file, or a new component, or a new folder, components. We'll create a new file called box. No, oops. What's going on? Can I click this? What's going on? Why can't I click this? What the fuck? I can't click that. Okay, so we're back. Okay, so we're creating a new file called box.js, guys. What's this box gonna do, guys? Yes. Import. I'm gonna do this the old way. Import React from React. Okay. Then we're gonna do a yes. We can create a function. It's gonna be a box. Okay. We're gonna do export default box. What's this function gonna do? Yes. Height 100, width 100, color. We'll just do red for now, okay? So we save this. We did our app.js. We save. We have a box. Okay, let's do it. Hope you guys are paying attention, man. Yes. We're also gonna have the user's name, okay? We're gonna do that one day. We're gonna do that someday in the future. Okay, everything looks okay. Our application is running. We don't have an error. Sweet. So what if we wanted to have a counter? Say counter. Then we'll say, how can we have a number here that would dynamically change, guys? No, my bad. I did this wrong. Let's create a new component. Okay, let's create a new component. Counter.js. Okay, exactly. Some of you guys are with me here. Counter. Okay, what is this counter gonna have, guys? Help me out. Got.
Button.
Yes. Counter. Okay, we have a counter here. We have a button. Okay, we say increment. What else we gonna have, guys? Decrement. Decrement. I did something wrong. I did something wrong. Yes, here we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our counter going. So we'll do counter. And we'll copy this. Okay, we got a counter. We got two buttons. Sweet. Okay. So guys, what is Redux about again? I want to hear two words right now. Application state. Application state, guys. Who here could help me make this button change, have a number using state? Someone help me, please. Come on. Yes, we need a constructor. We'd have to make a class app. No, my bad. It's not here. Okay, it'd be what? Come on. We do class counter.
Class window 2S.
Yes, class extends react.component. Okay, component. I think that looks good. Okay, what do we gotta do here? Now we gotta have another function, right? We gotta have a render. Gotta have a render. Yeah, you gotta throw that in there, man. It's not the same without a render. Okay, what else we do, guys? Constructor. Yep. Count is 0, okay? So what can we do here, guys? Now we can do this dot state. Oops. This dot state dot count. Okay. So we got to count, but now our button doesn't work, guys. Okay, so we're gonna add a function, right? We're gonna do an on click equals. What can we do here? We can do this 1,000 different ways. Actually, like 3 or 4 different probably ways. You know, you could do it 1,000 different ways, but let's just make it like how we probably should make a function. You know, let's do that. Let's just go ahead and pass a function that we create, increment. Okay. So now I'll create this function up here. Let me say this dot set state is that count is equal to count. This dot state dot count. Oh my God, this dot state dot count plus 1. We're doing computer science here, guys. Okay, it's computer science, and we have a button that works. Dope. This is fucking amazing. This is amazing. Can we do the same thing for the inverse?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, let's do that. Let's go and copy this. Okay. We can call this one decrement. Decrement. Okay. We're gonna do the exact opposite. We're gonna take this dot state and minus it. Okay. Now what we're gonna do here? We're gonna copy this, paste this, copy this, paste there. Okay. That looks good. This is the most complicated application that has ever existed. Okay? There's never been an application this complicated. We have 2 buttons. Okay, guys. So you guys notice that this state is, where does this state belong? Or where is it? It is only accessible in this component, right? That's a problem. That's a big problem. What if I wanted to write a function up here, a utility function called, you know, get data, post data, data to server, okay? And then I want to call this that state. It'd be impossible. Would not work. Okay? That would not work. So, how can we do something sort of similar? Okay? This is where Redux comes in. How am I going to visually display this? First off, let me guys show you the box, okay? Let's get this box going. There's something wrong here. Why don't we see a box? Well, but it shouldn't. It's right here above app, in the app component, so we should see a box. Okay, 1 second. I want you guys to see the box change colors, okay? Because you guys are gonna see that, you know, the state. Okay, we return. We have a box here. We export default box. Components box. Interesting. Expected. Okay, so line 4 we have a problem on our counter. Why do we have a problem here? Okay, there it goes. Okay, I know why we're not seeing the box, guys. Who can help me? Why aren't we seeing this box? Yes. Back at it again, Leon. You see? Background color red. Okay, we had a box. Guys, who can agree with me that counter and box are 2 different components? Who agrees with me that?
Yeah.
Okay, so how can we get some data back and forth between these?
Redux.
Yes, Redux. That's one way, right? That's one way. Just know it would be more complicated, okay? One thing we could do is we could take this box, right? And then we could stick it inside of counter.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't be pretty. And that's not what we're trying to do in this situation, right? We'll just copy this. And we need, now it's a relative export, guys. Come on, I keep seeing you guys fuck this up. Isn't that good? Okay? Look at where box is relative to counter. Okay? We can't import the same. I don't want to see this mistake anymore. Okay? So we got a box here. Now what could we do? Could we do something like this? We'd say count is equal to this dot state dot count. Right? This is one way. Let's look at our box. What do we have here now? Props. Yeah, we can console.log, console. Are you still following? Are you confused? Say again? Okay, so we got some props. We just proved that we got props from. Where did we get this props from? Here, someone give me a color. Red. Someone give me a number.
0.
Someone give me a hero, superhero. Iron Man. So what did we just prove that we just did, guys? We were able to successfully pass state from one component into its child. But what was the initial problem? The initial problem was box was not a child of counter, and we wanted it here, right? Wasn't that an initial problem? Right? Okay, so this is how we're gonna do this. We're gonna introduce Redux. Okay? So in order to set up Redux, we gotta understand that Redux is a higher order component. Okay? It's a higher order component, and it needs to wrap other components. So I'm gonna do something that I say that we generally don't do. I know that some of you have asked me when we touch this file, but for simplicity's sake, we're gonna touch it in this example. Okay? The index.js, because I wanna show you guys how we provide application-wide state to the entire application. So we want to wrap our app component with something called a provider from Redux. I forgot what that is. Where's the imports? Import, create store, Redux. Okay, I'm just gonna look at my other code because I don't remember where I put it. It's a document. Sometimes documentation isn't good. I don't know. I kind of skimmed it. I don't care if you guys have code that can do what you guys want. I don't care if you read documentation. If you know where your code is that can do what you want it to do, don't read documentation. But the vast majority of times, you guys are going to need to look at documentation because you guys don't already have code that does what you need. Does everyone hear that? Okay. So we import a provider, and then we simply wrap it. Okay. That seems easy enough. We simply wrap it. Yep. Okay, so we use Redux, its higher order component, to wrap our entire application. Okay, this component store needs to be passed a property called store. Store needs to be a function. Const store. I think it's a function, pretty sure. Nope, my bad. Store is a function call. It's a function call which we give a function, right? Yes, we give it a function, and this is the reducer. Okay, guys, what are we doing so far? Online, to recap, okay? To recap, everyone's attention, please, okay? In order to give all of our components the application-wide store, the application-wide state, we need to wrap our app component with a provider component. That's simply a higher order component. This component needs to have a store property. This store property we create using a function that we get for free from Redux, okay? We just call a function that Redux gave us and we give it one argument. Actually, you guys can give it many arguments. In the future, when you guys get more advanced with Redux, you guys will in fact give it multiple arguments. But right now, we're doing it as simple as we can, okay? We're doing it one reducer, or one argument. Okay, so and then state and then action. So what is the reducer? What is this argument? What data type is it? It's a function. Reducer equals. This argument, the reducer, is only a function, okay? Yes, my bad. So guys, what is the argument to create store? Yes. Can I call reducer something else? Yes. All that matters is that it's a function. Okay? We call create store with our function as the argument. We stick that store, that return object from create store inside of the property store of our provider. So what does our reducer do? It simply looks at state. It's simply, no, my bad. Every single time our application changes, right, our reducers are going to run. And they need to return state eventually. And state will take the shape of a JavaScript object. It's going to take the shape of a JavaScript object. What the fuck does that mean? Okay? Very simple. It's gonna be an object. The state needs to be an object. That's all it is, okay? The state is going to take the shape of an object. So what? Here it is. Okay? So here's our object that we returned. Right now it has nothing on it. Let's go ahead and give it a count. Okay? So let's look at app right here.
Wait 1 second. You made it 1 as opposed to 0.
Okay, my bad, 0. Good. I know, I wasn't thinking. I guess I was counting in 1, you know. Okay, so we just, our state, this object is our application state right now. It's the simplest piece of state we have right now. We're gonna make it a little bit more complicated in just a second, okay? It's just an object, it's got 1 key. Pretty simple, right? Okay, so in our app component, do we have any state here? No. Yes, we do not have state, guys. There's no state in our application, and we can keep it that way. Or there's no state in our app component, and we can keep it that way. We can do import connect from, I forgot. Right here. Okay, here's, I'm sorry, I always forget which one, if it's I always forget the imports. It's okay to look at code or documentation. Okay, so we imported what, guys? Connect. Okay, this is probably one of the most magical things about React or Redux, guys. I don't know, it's a lot of magic, but this was pretty magical, okay? How do we use connect? I'm gonna comment out the way that was working. No, let me show you something real quick, okay? Let me show you something real quick. Where's the application? Right here. Ooh, did I not install Redux? Fuck. npm install React Redux. React. My bad, I didn't even install Redux.
Wait,
Say again?
was that the last one? Was React?
I think I have it now. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Oh shit, am I on the wrong one? Was this the one we've been working on? Yes, this is the one we've been working on. Okay, so red, 0, Iron Man still there. Yeah, what were we doing again? Okay, we're doing application state, okay? So guys, our app component has no state. Our app component has no state. So how can we give this app component state? We can wrap it with the connect function. And this is probably the only time you guys are gonna see this this syntax right here. What do you guys see here at the bottom? On line 23. On line 23, what do we see? We see 2 parentheses next to each other, okay guys? Just know that this is like almost like calling two functions right in a row. That's basically what it is. Call 2 functions straight in a row, okay? On the right, we see app. That's where we always have the component that we want to give access to state, okay? So right now, I want the app component to have access to state. On the left, inside this parentheses, we're gonna have 1 or 2 arguments. 1 or 2 arguments. So the first argument is going to be something that you guys that you're always going to see on the internet called map state to props. When you guys are seeing examples, almost everyone on the internet calls map state to props. Map state to props is simply a function. That's all it is. It's a function. Map state to props argument that it's given is state, and this state is the application-wide state. It's the Redux state. It's the Redux store. Okay. And what we do in a map state to props is we return an object, and this object will have all the data that we want given to app. So we can pass anything we want here, right? We could say count, and then we'll take our count off of our store state.count. Okay? So now, map state to props, what's that saying is map the application state to this one stores or this one component's props. Okay? To this one component props. I'm gonna prove that to you. So we're gonna comment this out, uncomment this, comment this, okay? So now we can say in our app component, let's look at the props. Someone give me a superhero. Spider-Man. So when we load the application, we see that we have exactly no props, guys. Okay? Spider-Man has no props. Okay, you guys with me? Spider-Man has no props. But we want it to have props. Yeah. So we save, we switch this and we do it this way. And if we save, we can see that Spider-Man now in fact has a count property. Right? Now, where did this prop come from? Where do these props come from? When we look at a provider right here, right? Do you see where we pass any property here? We didn't pass a single property. We could. Hello equals world. So we save, and we can see that we do pass in a property here. Hello equals world, right? But where's count coming from? It's our application state. It's coming from the store, okay? It's coming from the store. So I'm gonna delete this for clarity. We save. Yeah, we save. We have pops count. So we can always see that like right here, look at our app. Our app has no access, has no such thing as state inside of it, guys. This is a functional component. We could write it like this if we wanted. I think that works. Yep, everything seems okay. Okay, so notice that so far we have passed 0 pops, right? We passed 0 pops here. Also here in app, we passed 0 pops. Yet, we're getting pops here in Spider-Man. Okay, so, am I looking at the right one? Fuck me, man, I'm not looking at the right one. Okay. Oh, yeah, here it is. This is the example I want to show you guys. Our counter is a component, right? Our counter is a component. It has its own state. We've implemented it so that the counter component can go up and down, right? But the problem is that we want our app component to also have access to that count. See? Right? This doesn't make sense. So what can we do? We want it to be the same number. We can also now add something, we can use something or the exact same technique that we did with our app to do the inverse. We're gonna do the inverse now. So we're gonna connect our counter component to Redux so that it can fire off actions. And this is part of the magic that we get from Redux. So we're gonna say, so remember how I told you that connect can take 2 arguments? Or it can take 1. In this case, our counter is gonna take both. So we're gonna say map state to pops, map dispatch to pops, okay? Map state to pops. Now we're gonna update. We're gonna get rid of. Hey, let's go ahead and just copy this, okay? All right, let's comment this out. I'm gonna show you how much simpler this application could be. Delete this one. Delete this one. Okay. Const counter equals. Okay, pops. Okay, so now it's a functional component, okay? We don't have state now. We don't have state now. This is gonna fail. We also don't have these 2 functions right here, but let's go ahead and fix this. So we'll say, what did we just do over here, guys? What did we just do in our app component to get access to state? Map application wide state to app component. Okay? I want you guys to be very explicit. You guys are going to see them always call it map state to props. I'm telling you exactly what it's doing right now. It's saying, hey, give me this Redux store state. I want to take that state and I want to stick it in the app component. I don't know how to be more explicit. So I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to do the same thing. We want to get the state and we want to stick it in our counter. Const map application wide state to counter component using Redux. Okay, we're taking all of this state in Redux, and we're in, or no, my bad. We're defining a function. This function is going to return an object. This object will take. I'm going to rename it even more explicitly. Map application state to counter component props. We're going to take our application state. We're going to take every single one of the application state that we want, and we're going to stick it in our counter component as a property. Okay? How do we do that? We write a function. This function returns an object. This object has a key of whatever we want it to be. We're gonna call it count because we're building a counter app. Okay? And then I forgot to do this. When called, this function is gonna have a piece of state. We're just gonna grab that state and then we're gonna look at the key that we want. So I'm gonna comment this out right here, okay? And we'll just look at props, okay? Console.log. Someone give me a superhero. Wonder Woman. Okay? And I'm gonna comment this out right here because this is going. Oh, no wonder I can't do that one. I'm gonna remove this box. Okay, so we're gonna comment this out because this is gonna fail because of state. I don't want to give you guys the answer yet, okay? I don't want to give you guys the answer yet. But props Wonder Woman, okay? We're gonna see whether or not our counter has a property. Let's see what properties it has. Okay, save it. Okay, we forgot to import connect. Fuck. I got ahead of ourselves. Sorry, guys. Sorry. So okay. Now we save it. Wonder Woman. How many props do we have? We have one actually. Dispatch is some more Redux magic, and we're gonna use that in just a second. We're gonna use that in just a second, okay, guys? It's some more Redux magic.
Was that the second argument you just made?
I removed it already. My bad. I forgot. I keep jumping ahead. I'm sorry. I keep doing that because I wanted to get prepared to increment and decrement. But in a second, I'm going to show you guys how to increment and decrement. So right now, I don't know what component I'm in. Let's get rid of some of these console logs. I'm confused now. Box. Right here. Okay, it's our counter component. Our counter component has only one property given to it, and this is free from Redux. Okay, we're gonna use that momentarily, but we want to have a count. So we uncomment this line, and we can see that our count is now given to us. Is anyone confused right now? What just happened? Someone tell me how count got here. Someone tell me how count got here. Where's it coming from?
The function map.
It's exactly. All of you are kind of correct. I want you guys to talk in more detail, guys. What it is like, when you guys do a job interview, I want you guys need to talk in much more detail when you guys are talking about what you're doing here. You can't just say, "Oh, we get it from application state." Talk in detail. If you guys are gonna help someone do their job or do the job so that they don't have to, they need to be confident you guys can build this. Okay? So we wrote a function, right? We wrote a function. This function was passed as an argument to our connect function call. Okay, it's the first argument. That gave us back, when this comes back, right? Just imagine right now, this is going to come back. The connect function call takes a function as its first argument. When it's done, it's gonna take another function, it's gonna call another function, and that needs to have the component that we define that we want to have this data. And then, what does this function do? The function that we pass as the first argument, Basically, it looks at the application state right here. It looks at the application state and it just says, hey, I want these properties and I want it to take this shape. So we could put whatever the fuck we want in here. Say current user, first name is Ray, last name is Mugen. Okay, now we save it and we look at our current user. Look at our current user right here, guys. We got Ray right here, Ray Mugen. We can put anything in here, but the vast majority of times we're going to put state.something. Okay, it's probably going to be state.something. Okay, age. Who here understands what I just did? Come on, help me out, guys. We wrote a function. This function is going to it's going to be called for us whenever we stick it in here. When this function is called, it's going to have our application state as its argument on line 46. Okay, and then on lines 47 through 53, we simply return an object, and this object will become the properties of this function. It will be given as a property to this function. So, what do we want to have in here, guys? We want to have the count, right? Pops.count. Okay, so increment and decrement is broken because there's no such thing as this in a functional component. So we'll delete this. I'm just going to delete that for now. Fuck. God damn it. Yes, I'm just calling it out. So we can see we have our count right here. Where's this count coming from? It's coming from where, guys? It's coming from the application state, correct. Okay, so now how can we change this application state? So I've successfully proven to you guys, right? Look at counter right here on line 16 on the left. Counter is not past a single property, guys. It's not past a single property. Yet, somehow, through the magic of Redux, right? Through the magic of Redux, with a little bit of setup, we had to set up, remember?
I have a question.
Yes.
I know. No. Question. It's okay.
Guys, let's recap. Guys, let's recap before we get ahead of ourselves, okay? Let's think about what we've done so far. On line 18 through 20, we wrapped our entire application with something from Redux called a provider. This something needed to take a property called store. Store, we got on line 15. We called another function, another piece of magic from Redux, with an argument. This argument is called a reducer. And do you remember what a reducer does? It simply describes what happens. Okay? It's going to simply describe what happens. We haven't changed. We're going to need to add a little bit more to our reducer to get it to work correctly. And we're going to do that momentarily. But just know that this is a part of the setup process. Right now, right now, app right here, right? App right here, it doesn't have any state. But it does have properties. It has a property of count. Where did we get the property of count from? From Redux. We can see it right here. We called connect. We passed it the function that represented the object of state that we wanted, the property that we wanted, right? And then we wrapped it. Once again, guys, this one right here is a little bit magical, and you almost never see the syntax. 2 parentheses right next to each other. I can't think of another place where I've seen this. Yes. No. No. Our reducer can look at state, and it can do certain things to state. And we're going to do that in just a second, okay? But our application state will be... You can give it a default state. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Yeah. Are you talking about lines 9 through 13 right now? Okay, yeah. This here, right? What's your question? Say it one more time. Yes. Yes. Well, what's important here is that like we can grab whichever piece of state that we're interested in. Not every single a component is going to care about every single piece of state. Okay. So right now, I just threw in a current user to prove something to you, and in a second, I'm going to change that. Okay. So we can throw in when our components, for example, in this case, counter is created. We can grab any piece of state we want, and then we can apply it. We can take that state and we can apply it as a property to the counter component. Maybe this one might be, I like the name of this one, map the application state to counter component. That seems like, I don't know how else to describe what this function does. So if we don't have it, then right now, this would work. No, they don't. I can call this whatever I want. Hello world. But it doesn't. You see, right? No. Like I said, not every component cares about the application state. It just depends on which component cares about what. Okay? So let's move forward. Now we got to figure out how we're going to increase this data. Okay? So let's go ahead and add this button. So, fuck, man. I want to show you it not working. I'm going to show you it not working. Okay, so we got our buttons, and we notice that neither one of these changes, right? Neither one of these numbers changes. So a second ago, or right now, we can see that because our counter right here, counter component props. Our counter component properties, we have a count, which came from the application state. We have a current user that we just hard-coded right here on line 49 through 53. And then we have a dispatch property. A dispatch property is simply a function. And this function, we pass it an action. What is an action? It's just an object. So, what are we gonna do? We can do on click props.dispatch, dispatch, and we call it with a action. The action is simply an object. And this object is what's really important about this object is it has to have a type property. We do type, and then we name the type of action it is. And we're gonna call this one increment counter. Okay? So what do we call dispatch with, guys? What is this? An object, thank you. I put it right here for simplicity's sake. I want you guys to think of it like this. Oops, action. Let's say const action equals, okay? That's cool too, that also works. So I'm gonna show you that both of these work, okay? No, they're not gonna work yet. They're not gonna work yet because I skipped a step. So now, you know how we said that reducers describe our actions? Well, when we look at our reducer, we can also give it an action argument. We can also give it. The second argument is given when the reducer is called an action, and we need to look at its type to determine what we should do with our application. So let's just do console.log action. So we'll save it. We'll save this one. Okay, we'll click it, and we can see that the action that was called, the action that happened on line 10 right here, where did it come from? Guys, it came from line 41. When our button is clicked, we dispatched an action. Can you guys see the screen?
Was it 41 or 36?
Both of them. Wait, what did you just say? What did you just say?
Was it line 41 or 36? Because that's where you find it, right? So that's where you
So these are both the same thing, right? So that's kind of what I was trying to say. These are both the same thing, increment. This action fired right here, right? This is just an object. That's all it is an object, right? Is this not an object, guys? Is this not an object? Action here is an object. On line 42, action is an object. It has a type property. Very simple. We refresh, we click, and we see that when we click this, that our action that is console log on line 10 comes from this object. That's all it is. So the important thing to know about a reducer is that it should look at all of our actions and determine whether or not it's interested in that action. And then it will adjust the state accordingly. So, on line 11, on the left at our reducer, we're simply going to look at our action. We're going to say, hey, if the action.type is equal to increment counter, what do we want to do? We want to update the state, right? So we can do return an object. Remember, all reducers need to return an object, and this object is going to be the application state. That's all it is. So we're going to do return an object. This object will represent the application state. So we do count is state dot count plus 1. Because whenever the application loads, right? Whatever the state of the application is in terms of its count, we want to increase it by 1. Now we're going to run into a new problem. We need to do something called do some initial setup. You guys can, the step I'm about to show you is kind of like the constructor, where we do say this dot state equals and then an object. Okay, we need to have a initial state.
Question.
Yes.
Action must be action. It can't be anything else.
You can call it something else if you want, but you should call it action. That's what everyone calls it. What do you mean right now? We're gonna have many actions, okay?
State must be state, or I can call it whatever I want.
You can call this whatever you want too. Yeah. These are all variables. Just know that these are all variables that represent an idea. That's so abstract. These variables represent an idea or some code. It represents an object. Okay, we can call it whatever we want. The simplest way to call it is state, because that's essentially what it is, state. Okay? So now we're gonna do this, okay? Guys, come on, guys. This is all important, guys. I don't want to lose you here, okay? I don't want to lose you here, okay? So we need to initialize our state with some initial state, okay? So there's something called a default argument in programming. Has anyone here heard of default arguments? A default argument. Okay, notice what I'm doing on line 9. Okay? State is going to be, for a moment in time, it's going to be nothing. Okay? It's going to be nothing. So we need to give it a default argument. This default argument is simply an object. Okay, so we're going to save it. We're going to refresh. We hit increment. And it works. I think it works. I think this is the right one. Yes. Okay? That's all it is. If I delete this, did I not? Okay, that's right. Okay, we saved it. We took the state. Oh, because the first time this ran, I gave it a 0. I did this actually wrong. If we do this, it's kind of, I did this wrong. Okay, just know that right now we should not have done it this way. This is how we're supposed to do it. We need to return the state here, right, on line 15, because the reducers sometimes they will always run. Actually, reducers will always run, and if they don't care about the action, they simply need to return the state. So now our state, we're going to give it a default argument. Or we haven't yet. Let's watch it fail. It's complaining. It doesn't know what this is. Okay. So now we need to give it a default argument. So we'll say const initial state equals right here. So we're going to give our reducer a default argument. It's saying, hey, if I don't have state yet, let's go ahead and make it this one object right here. Okay. So we'll save it. We'll refresh it. We'll hit increment, and we can see that everything works a-okay. Yes?
Back to the coding. So it's basically, I can put the conditional shape.
Tell me a line, please. I don't know what you're talking about now.
On the line 19.
Okay, line 19, yeah.
So I can return the state, mean like return an object. That state has count equals 0 in it. So I don't have to write const initial state. I mean, I don't have to write the line 9 to 11 anymore.
9 through 11? No, but this is the 9 through 11 is setting up our initial application state. This is a very simplified example, guys. Guys, this is a very simplified example, okay? This is, but now just know, okay, like just know, like initial state can be anything. I'm gonna copy user right here. We're gonna take this out right here and we're gonna put it over here in our initial state. Okay, say current user is initial state. Okay, so now we can say current user is state dot current user. Okay, refresh. If we can still see that our counter component over here, our counter component is still being given the current user. But remember, I'm just on lines 48 through 53, we're just simply grabbing some state off of our application state. We're saying, hey, you know the state object? Give me the current user. But we don't have to. We can say hello world. So then if we look at our counter component props, what is current user? It's hello world. But the reality is that our entire application is going to want to know what current user is. And we're going to need to get that current user off of that state object. And then this is right here. On line 51 is where we inject the application state into our counter component as a property. Okay, I'm sorry, man. You're going to have to practice and fuck up. That's part of it. Okay, so now we're going to do the exact opposite, okay? We're going to do one more thing. What are we doing here? We're going to leave this one commented, okay? We're going to copy this one down. Okay, oh, no, this action is wrong right here. We need to have, okay, so this action is going to be increment counter, increment counts, okay? And pass this one as the increment. What's this one going to be? Decrement count. Okay, we're going to pass this one as the argument to our dispatch function call. We're going to save. Do you guys think this is going to work? No, it's not going to work. Why is that working? It's not working. This should be going down, right?
Yeah, that's going up.
Why is this doing this? Because this type is exactly the same. This type is the same. We want this to be a different one. Okay, we save, we change it. Nothing works. Why? No, what it is because here this reducer. The reducer, it runs every single time, right? And it with the state that this right here is the logic right here. On line 21 is the logic. We're really on lines 19 through 23. This is the logic for updating the state of the application. The most important things to know, goddamn, obviously they're all important. Every character matters. There's not a single character I could delete right now and it not work. Okay? But the overall high level picture is that when we dispatch an action, we're dispatching an action on line 44. This action right here is a plain JavaScript object, decrement count. The decrement count we define on line 37. It's simply an object. The object has a type. This type is a string. Its value is a string. So, on line 19, we actually look at that string. Right now, we're looking for an increment counter. So we need to do the inverse, okay? We need it to look for a decrement type, decrement underscore counter type. And then we need to do what? We do the exact opposite. We save, we refresh, we can go up. Can we go down? We can go down. Nice. And notice the number up here changes, okay? They're both changing together. And why is that important? What is the purpose of Redux, guys? We talked about it in our lecture earlier. What is the purpose of Redux? What is it? Managing state and having a central truth, a central place to have state and knowledge for application-wide state. So right now, this example is a very contrived example. We have one big app component. It's a functional component, right? It does not have state. There's no this.state here, guys. And neither does counter. Counter does not have this.state anywhere. Okay, guys? Neither one of these components have access to the state. They don't have this.state. But our entire application does have a sense of state. And our entire application can pass down this state to each one of our components as needed. Okay? So I'm going to prove this to you guys one more time. Remember the example that I showed earlier. This one, right? This component right here has access to the state. Yeah, the box component has access to state via Redux. And in a moment, we're going to do something very similar. We're going to create a box and it's going to change colors depending on the state. Okay? So, let's look at our box component. We're going to do this one more time. We're going to do the same magical thing we just did. We're going to copy some code. Okay? We're going to change it accordingly because we're not just copying and pasting without thinking. We understand how all the parts fit together. Right? So, yes. Dispatch is magical. It comes from Redux.
Remember when you develop the props, you see the function dispatch.
Wait, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And this comes from the magic of Redux. It came from right here. Connect. When we do this, we get dispatch for free.
You have to use that.
We have to use connect. We have to do connect, to call the function, okay? And I don't think we have to do this. Let's see if this works. Map line 10. Where the fuck is map coming from? Okay, the box. My bad. Okay, my bad right here. Okay. Also, we get it for free. We don't need to do this part right here. We don't need to do, we just do connect. All you gotta do is call connect and you get the dispatch function for free. But remember, our counter component does in fact care about the application state. It cares about the count, okay? And it also cares about the current user. So now let's go ahead and do something magical. Props.currentUser.firstName has a score of blah. Okay, refresh. Ray, what do you have a score of?
0.
Okay, how are you on the screen?
By the magic of Redux.
Right here, Ray. It's right here, Ray. It's right here on line 52, okay? It's right here. What if I did something like this? What if I just stuck in an object said first name is equal to Hill. Now that would be Hill. Okay? This is coming from this object of state right here. Okay? State.currentUser. Okay? Alright, so where the fuck was I? We can increment, we can decrement. I forgot where was that? Where was I at? We were showing something. We did this. We looked at the props. Oh, we're looking at the box. Okay, we're looking at the box. Okay, so remember, guys, we want to have our box. Guys, we want to have our box have access to the state as well. We have an app component that has application to recap. Our app component has access to application-wide state through connect. Our counter component has access to application-wide state through our connect function. Now we're gonna do the same thing for our box. So we import connect, we call connect with box, right? We call connect with box, and then let's just look at the properties that the box has. Box, props. We save. And we can see, guys, right here. Guys, look, our box has the dispatch through Redux. But what do we want, guys? Yeah, we want to change the color. So how can we get the application state into our box component? What does this function have to do, guys? What does it have to do? What does it have to return? An object. It has to return an object. What is this object going to have on it?
Background color.
It can have anything we want on it. You guys, those are valid examples. Those are valid responses. I'm just going to look at count. Okay, we're going to say, well, hey, I wanted to have count. And we're going to say state.count. Okay, we don't have state. It's called with this function call. But to prove to you guys that this works, we're going to do background color. Background color. We're going to say red. Okay, so now we save, we refresh, we look at our box. Map state to pops. Oh yeah. Thank you, Phil. We save and we see our box has a count and a background color. Good job. But right now we're not going to store background color inside from here. I'll leave it there just to know so that you guys can see that we can in fact store. We can just give any component any piece of state we want. Okay, any one. But I'm going to do this one. We're just going to do some computer science again. We're going to say color is equal to props.count modulo 2 equals 0. What are we doing here, guys? We're just saying, hey, is it even or is it odd? Okay. If it's even, we're going to give it color red. If it's blue, we're going to give it a different color. And we're going to set it in a variable called color. Okay. So what are we going to do with this color? We're simply going to pass it as a style property to our div component. So we'll refresh. We can increment. Oops.
Not color.
Okay, I fucked up.
Background color.
No. Color right here is coming from the count, basically. I forgot to do something over here. Our reducer needs to be smarter. Okay, this is probably one of the most confusing things, I would say. Each one of these reducers needs to return the entire application state. Okay, you can think of lines 19 through 23 as being one reducer, one type of reducer, right? And then lines 24 through 28 as a different type of reducer. Right now, every single time we change our application state, we're only putting back our state to only have one key. It's only a count. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're simply going to say current user is state.current_user. Okay, so now we're going to say every single time, even though we're only interested in our count piece of state right here on line 28 when we increment or when we decrement, and then on line 19 when we increment, even though we're only touching our count, we saw this object still needs to represent our entire application state. Yes.
Can we use dot?
Yes, we can. I was going to show you that in just a second. Yes, we do this. This is what I want you guys to do. This is when I start thinking, oh, this guy needs to work with me. These both work. These work exactly the same. And as a matter of fact, this way is the best way. I would say this is the best way. Why? Because you can have a bunch of other shit here. You know, we have background color. We don't want to, we don't want to do state.background color again, blah, blah, blah. Okay? We just want to use, I'm going to show you that both of these work. Okay? So we'll save, we'll refresh. Okay, Ray has a score of 0. Increment. It works. It works. So we have 1, 2, 3 components. 3 components. None of them have state. Show me this anywhere. Nope. These are comments, guys. Guys, these are all comments. Is this not a comment? These are all commented out.
Yeah.
This is a comment. So we have 3 components. Let's go ahead and look at these all in detail. This game. Fuck me.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Okay, guys. This is quickly recap before we finish the class, okay? Okay? Guys, on the left, let's look at the left, okay? V. Come on, pay attention. I want you guys to pay attention to this. On the left, guys, we have a functional component. Our functional component is passed some properties. Where do these properties come from? They come from connect on line 29. When we call connect, if we were to call it like this, it would work, right? but we'd only get one property for free. We'd get dispatch for free. So and the app component, because right here on line 12, we care about the application state count. We need to add some additional behavior. We also need to write a function. We can call it whatever we want. Okay? Most people say map state to props. Okay? And then we stick it in here. And what shape does this function call take? It's going to be given a state argument. It needs to return an object. This object is going to have a key. This key is going to have a value. Whenever we do this, magically in our app, we're going to get props.count. We could have changed this to whatever. Hello. Okay? We refresh. This seems okay. We increment. And the number does kick up because our application state has changed. Okay? Our application state has changed.
But it will always come back to reducer, right?
It always passes through reducers, correct. How did our application state change, guys? In our counter component, we had a magical prop. This property on line 42, dispatch, was given to us for free by Connect. Okay? It was given us for free by Connect. This function right here on line 42 and 43. What argument did we give this function call?
Object.
An object. The object had what key on it? Yes. And the type was a string that described what action occurred. That's the basic shape of how Redux works, guys. Lastly, obviously in Box, this is very simple. All we did was connect to prove that any component can be given, we can look into the Redux store, the Redux state, in order to do something based on that state, any component. We simply had a box component. For simplicity's sake, know that one day we're going to have many different components that look at state. We can have an avatar, it's going to look at the current user's photo. We can have anything. It's just the possibilities are limitless. Okay, so we also obviously did the reverse. We decremented. And one more thing. I'm going to be really sad if we make this mistake. A part of our setup, what do we do, guys? Exactly. We wrap the provider around our entire app. And this provider had to be given what property? And what is the property? How do we get that? Yes, we created a variable by calling a function that Redux gave us for free. And this function was given an argument. What is this argument? What is this argument, guys? It's a function. Thank you, Phil. Thank you. This function, this reducer, its purpose is to simply, when this function is called every single time an action occurs, it's going to say, hey, do I care about this action? Is it something I'm interested in? If it is, give me what I do something. Okay? Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
Do you have any questions?
So if our application have 100 states, all those 100 states will stay in this.
So right now, this is the simplest way I can show you. I don't want to make this too complicated, but yeah, it kind of looks like this. One day we're going to have a bunch of little reducers.
So the other components don't need to be class-based component anymore, right? They'll just be functional components.
Exactly. That's the idea. We want to get away from using this.state a lot. That becomes very difficult to manage. Yeah. And also, we could also have, the thing is, I don't think I demoed this behavior really well, to be honest with you. It's just how we share data between all our components. It's the best way to share data between all our components. That is what people say. But it depends. Certain projects will be really small. You don't need it. You just.
So would there be a situation like this component return to class-based component and we have to do another set state?
Say again?
Is there a situation we use Redux, but this component will still have to be class-based component and have
Yes.
state?
Yes, there are. Yes. There are many situations like that. Yep. Because certain data we don't need to have the whole application know about. There's certain pieces of data we only care about it in one place, so we don't need to share it anywhere else. Anyway, guys, just know that this is something that we can do. This is the way we manage state. We're gonna have state everywhere by this. Okay, so you guys get doing the lab, this lecture. You guys have